Welcome to Phuket in Focus as we look at the Phuket news out on the stands, over 600 of them around Phuket. Simon Ostheimer, the managing editor, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Floods, floods, floods. It hasn't stopped raining.
No, and it's pouring outside as we speak.
Fabulous front page photo.
Yeah.
Who took this one?
This was supplied by actually a reader, Sam Dezer. He was out there, on the scene, and we try and be everywhere at once, but it's not always possible. But we do encourage people to send us in tips, and in this case, a front page photo.
And it has been a lot of rain. We're really sort of right into the monsoon season. Although for those people that are worried about the monsoon, maybe some tourists that have arrived here, there was a period right in the middle of the monsoon last year where it didn't rain for 6 weeks and it was bright blue sunshine. So it's not like this all the time.
Yep.
And we've got to fill up the dams some stage.
But if you find yourself sort of caught out in it, it can appear scary. I mean, the waters do subside in a short amount of time, but one of the issues that we raise in this week's issue is the fact that this is happening year upon year, and when is it going to be properly addressed?
Patong seems to be always badly hit, but Phuket town seems to have not had so many problems this year. Some of the flooding there has been alleviated by the works they were doing.
I mean, it's still we've still got a ways to go in the rainy season, and last year it was definitely, I think it was up to about knee height in certain places. You couldn't even sort of leave the buildings there. That's right.
I'm wondering if they've been doing some work though that's alleviated the problems.
It's possible, but
town.
We'll hold our judgment until the end of the season.
And part of the problem, I think, during the week you reported on the website was that the flood coincided with a peak high tide in Patong.
Yeah, so the floodwaters basically didn't have anywhere to go. But the larger problem is, in a place like Patong, it's a natural floodplain. Same with Kamala as well. And so when you concrete it all over, where does the water go? And that's when you need a proper drainage system.
Yeah, it was nice when you had like rice paddies there and things.
Yeah, because it completely absorbed, and it's the same thing with mangroves and floodwaters as well.
Are you going to be on the first airport bus going from airport to Patong?
Probably not.
No, I think you'd probably need your...
but we
riot gear.
Are planning to send a reporter on the bus. We had a previous invite when they announced that they were going to be doing the inaugural run. That was actually postponed, but now they've announced that they are going to go ahead, but it's not going to be the complete route. It will be just to Patong, and they're still in negotiation with tuk-tuks and authorities in Kata and Karon.
So the fact that they're only going to Patong with the airport for the planned start, does that mean that the Tuk-Tuk and Taxi Federation down there in Kata has won?
Well, this story is not over yet, and this is what I've been saying previously, is that they need to just start it. They need to start the bus. Just go to Patong initially. Patong has already agreed to it. The tuk-tuks and taxis are okay with it. Once Kata and Karon taxis and tuk-tuks can see that it's not impacting on other people's business, in fact it's bringing business to them, because then obviously they can shuttle people from the bus stop to the various hotels. Perhaps then they can reach a final agreement with them and the bus route can go all the way. But it's better to have something than nothing.
Sure. So who's drawn the short straw downstairs to go on the first trip?
Well, it's between Mao and Mango, so we'll see what the date is and what time and who's available.
Because we do imagine there's probably going to be some sort of protest, some sort of activity involved with this first bus trip. Do you know when the date is?
Not confirmed as yet.
Okay.
Watch out on the PhuketNews.com for updates.
Fantastic. I'm wondering if on the side of that bus it's going to have the words Pegasus. Probably not.
Probably not.
Pegasus are the ones, of course, that have been having a few glitches with their buses. They're the Russian-owned company, the Russian tour buses, and they had a collision last week, and we had that fantastic video on Phuket News TV last week. Jody got a fantastic exclusive.
Yeah, well, let's just clear up the fact that their buses are not owned by Pegasus in any kind of way. They're actually owned by a bus company, and Pegasus charters them for its own use. And they do brand them with the Pegasus, but they're in no way have any kind of ownership of the vehicles. So it's worth just pointing that out.
I'd be saying, though, the buck stops here. If it's got your logo on the side of it, wouldn't you want to make sure that those buses are maintained?
Yeah, no, sure, because it affects your public image.
Yeah.
And then it results in stories like we run in the paper when they do have accidents and mishaps, and like with that runaway bus in Patong. But as you say, in this week's paper, we've got a very good Phuket focus by Jody, and he sat down with the Phuket manager for Pegasus, also the man who's in charge of hiring or supplying the buses to Pegasus, and also a consultant who's kind of an intermediary. So They had some very interesting things to say, but I'll let people read the story to find out more.
Yeah, a really good exclusive by Jodie Houghton from the Phuket News. But yeah, I mean, Qantas and a lot of other airlines around the world, they don't actually own their planes. They lease them from other companies that do the maintenance. And, but if the Qantas plane goes down or the Thai Airways plane goes down, they're the ones that are going to go and get the blame.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the onus is on Pegasus. They're the ones who are leasing these vehicles. They're paying the money for it. It's affecting their reputation. You think that the very least they want to do is prevent them from ever happening again.
Now, we should tell people that it's not April Fool's this week, but there was a story during the week about the Grand Prix, the F1, the Formula One races coming to Phuket.
Yeah, possibly coming to Phuket. There's been a lot of reports recently about an F1 race taking place in Bangkok. But as it turns out, they've just passed a law which bans the organisation of any kind of motor racing in the city. It seems maybe that was deliberately done to prevent the F1.
There's enough van drivers that do them already.
Yeah, so alternatives were suggested, and one of the places was Phuket. Obviously, it's a bit fanciful to say the least, and we were talking about before the show, you know, the reality of having an F1 race here. You need to have the airport infrastructure, you need to have public transport, you need to have good roads.
Yes.
And the F1 drivers already complain about the roads in Singapore, and they had to do a night race there on a street track. So, you know, God only knows what they would make of Phuket's thoroughfares.
Yeah, I can't think of one really good road where you could possibly even consider running an F1.
Well, the only place possibly would be the bypass road, but then that would just be two long straights and two hairpins at the either end. It'd be like one of those, racetrack sets just going round and round and round. So.
We could have the pits just out here at the front of the Phuket News.
Yeah, when we were playing around with the idea in the office that, you know, before the actual F1 event, we could have the top Formula One drivers take part in a tuk-tuk rally and put them behind the wheel, you know, of a tuk-tuk.
Like in really fast cars.
Yeah. And see how they do against each other. But there's all sorts of fanciful notions, but it's unlikely to happen, but it's fun to think about it.
It would also be great if, in fact, they could include it in the rules that they had to pick up tourists at the airport and bring them to Patong.
Yeah, well, one of the other ideas we're throwing around was for this pre-tuk-tuk race is for a pit stop, instead of getting all the tyres changed and everything like that, is actually your pit crew get in the tuk-tuk, and then you've got to sort of, you know, carry on with a full load of passengers.
It's a wonder that we've been able to write the paper this week. Spending all the time coming up with these stories about the Grand Prix. My tip, it ain't gonna happen. Let's have a talk about Life, which is the magazine right in the middle of the Phuket News each week. Fantastic read, especially when you've got a few days of rain. And the front page is all about a taste of KL.
Yep.
Who got the free trip?
Well, it was my trip.
Oh, I see.
It's got my name on the front for that. But I used to live in Kuala Lumpur and have a fond spot for Malaysia, and so I was recently back there. And I thought I wanted to do something different and basically signed up for 2 tours. And one was a walking food tour, and the other one was one of those double-decker bus tours. So basically ways to see the city that I hadn't before. So that's basically my travel story this week.
If you think taxis are bad here in Phuket, I think they're even worse in KL. They're the rudest taxi drivers in the world.
Don't necessarily agree, but the price is right. If you compare the price there compared to here, very, very reasonable.
Yeah.
And I found I actually got into a lot of very good conversations with the drivers because they all have a very good quality of English. Talking about politics, food, general life. I find them quite engaging.
Obviously, I've got the wrong ones in the past. Have you ever been to the Blue Elephant in Phuket town?
Not for dinner, but I have visited the property. Really impressive.
Yeah, well, we got an article about it in Life this week.
Yeah, so we have an interview with he's actually the son of the Blue Elephant founder, and Blue Elephant is not just a Phuket company, if people are not aware. It's a global company of restaurants around the world, cooking schools. There's one in Bangkok, there's many in Europe. And so we have an interview with the manager and the owner here, Kim Stepp, basically about what brought him here and then kind of his plans for the future of the Blue Elephant, and actually some very interesting things that he's working on.
When it comes to different eats in Phuket town, it's at the top end, obviously, but it's just part of that huge range of eating in Phuket town, which I think is a great place, as we've discussed before. Just finally, let's have a talk about, firstly, the football, the sport in the Phuket News.
Yeah.
A complete washout on Sunday night.
Yeah, and I don't believe this has happened ever before for Phuket FC. You were actually there,
Yeah.
I believe. But the rain, so the game started fine, and it was just a light drizzle.
Light drizzle, and it's
Yeah.
got heavier and heavier until a stage where they were trying to kick the ball, and they'd kick it, and it would just hit the water and stop.
Yeah.
So it completely threw out everybody's rhythm, and then it was just getting unsafer. And at one point, you literally couldn't see much of the ground. It was just all water.
Well, also the floodlights went out for a period, I believe.
That was the most exciting thing in the game.
But, well, you would know, but so second half, the referee called a stop to the game. He said, enough's enough, you can't play in this.
Yeah.
And they're left with 40 minutes, and they're going to have to reschedule it at a later date and play
So do they
just those
start-
40 minutes.
Just those 40 minutes. They have to come all the way from, I think, Pattaya, Rayong.
Rayong.
Yeah, they said it was 15 hours in a bus.
Yep. And all these football teams, none of them fly, they don't have the budget for that, so they do travel all around the country by bus.
So they've got to come back for 40 minutes. Why don't they come back and play, because no one had scored, and play a whole game?
It's the Thai football regulations. In some countries, yes, you would play the whole game, or once you reach a certain number of minutes, that's it. The score remains at that, and both teams get either 1 point or one team wins. But it's just the local situation. The good thing about it is PTT Rayong are the top team, second in the league. Very, very strong side. Now Phuket FC they only have to play 40 minutes against them, and they have a much better chance of winning.
And film reviews, we've got After Earth this week. I can't say I enjoyed it. What did Tom think of it, the writer of the film review?
He thought
this
it
week?
was terrible.
Yeah, so did I.
Yeah. I know you're a fan of sci-fi as well, but this has basically seemed like a Will Smith ego project.
Yeah, it was Will Smith and his son Jaden, who spends most of the film just frowning and looking concerned. And Will Smith's, well, I won't sort of ruin the plot, not that I'd waste your money to go and see it, but he's sort of out of the movie to a large degree fairly early on. And a whole lot of CGI and a lot of references to Scientology, which I found a bit disturbing.
Although, I mean, Will Smith's not been confirmed as being a member of that church, but certainly there are a lot of coincidences, we shall say. But it seems like he had far too much control over the project. I think he produced it, I believe he helped write it, he had his son star in it, he hired the director to film it, so maybe a case of one man too much power.
Yeah, he's always been an A-grade, solid investment for filmmakers in the past. Everything he's
But he has to be himself.
Yeah.
You know, it's Will Smith that we know and love is with the wisecracks, with the humour, and absolutely none of that in this, from what I hear.
Yeah, we want Bad Boys 3. That's what we want, Will Smith. Right, fantastic. Available at over 600 locations around the island. It's the best 20 baht you'll ever spend. Time to go out and get started on next week's edition. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Simon Ostheimer talking about the Phuket news on Phuket in Focus.